Welcome to Parables from Paradise. My name is Lisa Munoz, and we're live today from Guanacaste, Costa Rica. And I am joined by my friend Summer Pailet, and she's here today to talk to us a little bit about her story of her time here in Costa Rica. So, Summer, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd first of all like for you to tell everybody how we met, what our relationship is like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And you are such a gift to so many, especially in this precious land. So you and I actually met first by, I think we were in a Pilates class, struggling along.
Mm-hmm.
And we just immediately connected. I felt that energy connection with you right away. But later, when things were really heated due to what was happening in Israel, I had gotten a text from you. And it was so powerful because you basically said, knowing I was Jewish, said, I see you. I know that your people must be hurting. And would you, or you said, I would like to offer my home in prayer for Israel, for you and all of your Jewish family here. And we did that with Pastor Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so beautiful. And it touched me so much, Lisa. And that sealed the deal.
It was a really powerful evening. I mean,
It was so beautiful.
I was exposed to several of your amazing friends that I had never met before. And I agree. It was just such a moment of united feeling.
Community.
Yes. So I'd like you to just kind of tell us now a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, your family, what you do for a living.
Yeah. So I am born and raised in Dallas, Texas. My husband and I are high school sweethearts.
Oh, I love that.
So we met early on, and he's from a big Jewish family, and we have 3 boys. So I have 2 young adult sons, 29 and 25. And then our youngest is 15. We call him our dessert baby.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband grew up in the jewelry business. And I grew up really, first half of my life was in the apparel business. And then I ventured into the leadership development and professional coaching world, probably for the last 15 years. So that's kind of been my second chapter, if you will.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you just mentioned that your husband's Jewish, your family's Jewish, but you didn't start Jewish, you converted.
I didn't.
So tell us a little about that decision.
Yeah. So God had a beautiful path for me. You know, I grew up with a single mom. So I was exposed to lots of different forms of religion, whether it was just Christian unity. I ended up graduating from all-girls Catholic school.
I did too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All-girls Catholic school. And so I'd been exposed to different religions, right? All in the range of Christianity. But in high school, I actually met my husband. And that's where I was truly first introduced to Judaism. And it was really so beautiful to watch his family. They had been 3 generations in Dallas, and he lived 1 street over from his grandparents. So in high school, going to the football game, before we could go together, he actually had Friday night dinner for Shabbat and had his grandparents over, and then he could meet me at the football game. And what I began to learn, both from him and also in my Catholic upbringing in high school, we had to take theology class.
Yep.
And so I was so intrigued when we started on, learning about Judaism. And then I really got kind of firsthand experiential learning about all of the incredible traditions and customs that really surrounds and is the foundation of Judaism. Mm-hmm. And that really spoke to me watching how close his family was, and just what a deep spiritual connection to what it meant to be a Jew, the moral compass, and really understanding the foundation of the power, right, of the Old Testament and all the beauty there.
So speaking of beauty, I want to shift gears a little bit to what drew you to Costa Rica? What brought you here?
Yeah. Costa Rica actually brought us here. So in 2021, we had this impromptu visit for a week. And the 3rd day, I said to my husband, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like we need to stay longer. We need to be here longer. And he said, well, no, because we're going on, from here to another destination trip. And I said, no, I'm not talking about extending this week vacation. I'm talking about something's calling me that we need to be here. So lo and behold, went back home to Dallas after 2 trips, a back-to-back trip. And every day I would just say, God, we're moving to Costa Rica. Universe, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I would take my son to carpool. I would walk the dog. I would be cooking in the kitchen and just say, we're moving to Costa Rica.
It's on your mind all the time.
So I professed, manifested, whatever you want to call it. I did that for about 6 months, Lisa. And finally I got a clue and said, well, if this is going to happen, I probably need to make an effort.
Action. Yeah.
Right? So yes, we can depend on, something bigger and better and greater, but we also have to take ownership.
But that feeling was in your heart that was planted there.
So in my heart. So 6 months later, I said, well, my main obligation is to my son, who was going into 8th grade at the time, that I knew he had to be in school. Otherwise, I'd be in big trouble. The truancy would come and get me. He found through a family therapist who lived here as well, ironically enough. I had already moved back to Dallas, but I reached out and said, hey, I remember you were going back and forth to Costa Rica. Do you have some connections there? Well, he connected us to someone on a WhatsApp, saw the house, said, that's it. I just knew. And everything within 90 days, we had sold our house in Dallas. We had gotten enrolled in my son in school. Everything truly by the hand of God.
So things just lined up.
By the hand of God. That's what we say. So my husband actually had a heart attack in 2020. And we also had a son that had been struggling with anxiety and addiction for 6 years. And I knew that there had to be a greater plan and that it was time for us to take a time out and heal.
Mm-hmm. So you're in Costa Rica. Talk to me a little bit about, have you been able to find other Jewish families here? Have you been able to fellowship, connect? What has that been like?
Yeah, so, it really was kind of this moment. People are saying, in 2022, when we came in August, they said, wow, you're so brave. How'd you just make that move? Because we had never lived anywhere else but Dallas. Mm-hmm. And, what's interesting is, it's not even so brave in the moment. I think it was just, I felt like I was in survival mode, and God just picked us up and said, nope, I'm
take you somewhere else.
Yep. Change of environment. Mm-hmm. So we came really, didn't even thinking about building a community, because we had a beautiful community in Dallas. So that wasn't quite on our radar. I think we just needed to do our own pause, which the name of your home here, pause, Selah, pause and reflect. Mm-hmm. We needed that space to create white space for ourselves. What was the biggest gift of all is the community that we found here. And we kind of call it our Jewish diaspora. Because we instantly dropped in. And that's the beauty of being Jewish. No matter where you are in the world, there's always fellow Jews. Mm-hmm. And so, Shabbat looks a little different here because we're in flip-flops or bare feet. Mm-hmm. We go to the beach, we come back, we light candles. It may not be at the exact appropriate time, but God sees our efforts.
Yeah.
And so having challah, homemade right here in Surfside, by dear friends, that host for us. And last night we had Shabbos. And lit candles on the rooftop of Flamingo at a friend's home, and said our prayers and had wine and challah, and it was just so beautiful, because celebrating Shabbat, right? That's all about just separating something and making it holy for this next 25 hours, right, of disconnecting so that we can reconnect. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been the greatest gift that Costa Rica and the universe have given us, is that stepping away from the matrix and all the distractions, and really pausing to reflect on God's beauty and connecting back with ourselves.
Yeah. And I noticed too, since I've been living here for the past several years, that was a way the enemy tried to steal joy from me. Was he tried to keep me occupied with, you got to do this, you got to go do this, you got to go do this. And I feel like when you're around like-minded people here in Costa Rica, that we all just kind of want to take a breath, and we recognize how important fellowship is and connection is, and connecting with nature and our environment. I mean, I looked at a lot of your Facebook photos, and I know you're a big nature lover. You and me,
Yes.
I was like, me and Summer, we love our sunset photos.
Yes, we do.
I can take a sunset photo every
That is, well, Jeff always says, that's the fireworks show.
Yeah, it is.
And
it's God's beauty right there.
The sunset, and then, 30 minutes after, when the glow is just emanating, and there's something bigger and greater than yourself.
Amen to that.
What are we all really doing here? I think the other beautiful thing about being in Costa Rica is there's really no judgment. There's no judgment about how does your car look, and that's a mess, because believe me, it is.
Going down these dirt roads,
it's, it was fun today because I put on lip gloss, right, and some mascara, but no one cares, because I feel like we're on a higher frequency here. We are really blessed to be on this higher frequency where the veil is very thin. And I just feel like we see people's souls.
I agree. Yeah.
That's really what we
It's really
see.
special. It's a really special place because of that, for sure.
It's magic.
Since you've been here, one of the things I admire about you is you're definitely a go-getter. You're a leader. And actually, you're a leader by trade. That's what you do for a living. But I would say you're a volunteer by heart. You've done different projects around the area for cleanup efforts and things like that.
No plastic.
And no plastics. That's right. How does your faith influence you into action?
Wow. So, what's really interesting, my top two core values are truth and connection. So I really try to live by that. And I know that's like, what fuels my soul. And my business is Soulpreneur, Soul, which is someone who steps up and shines their light in a soul-driven career, or just soul-driven work, right? And so for me, shining that light, I know I am my best self when I am working as a vessel, right? Chokes me up. That, and I say this with humility, that it is, it is a gift to get to coach people in the leadership work that I do. I do not take that for granted, because somebody allows you in to be vulnerable, to say, show me some of the things, because we need each other to do that. And so I know if I'm helping someone else, they're helping me, and we're just rising together.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. I, in my interview with Danielle, we talked about being vessels and just being open to allowing God to work through us, so that we can affect change. We can affect our families, our community, the world. And it's cool. And we're able to be a part of that.
So grateful for it.
Yes. All right. So you talked a little bit earlier about you have 3 sons, but I particularly want to talk about your middle son, Asher, who's 25. And he's recently come to Costa Rica to live and kind of, well, that wasn't the original plan, but it seems to have stuck. But he's going to come on and talk as well. But I want to hear about Asher's journey from your perspective as his mom, and as Jeff, as you both of it as his parents. And then why ultimately you felt Costa Rica was where he needed to land to heal.
Yeah. So thank you for creating a space that feels safe, right? To share. And I'm a sharer anyway, because feeling if you're a vessel, whatever I can help someone else with, right? I want to pay it forward. And his journey has been a tough one. And he did not come with us for the first 2 years that we were here. And in fact, we moved back, as you know, in August. I've been here half the time already this year, which is wonderful. But, we recognize that we could not save him, right? We can't. That's up to him and God. And I knew when I got here, like, this was good for me, but of course you want something for your son, right? Or anyone who's struggling in their life. You want it for them, sometimes more than they want it for themselves. And it's not about our timing, right? I said that before. But I just felt that, wow, if he could come to Costa Rica, perhaps he could have a similar experience that Jeff and I have had and been blessed with having all of this love and like a big hug being here. So back in November, he was able to come with me, and I thought, you know what? He is now able to leave Dallas leave the US and actually come to Costa Rica. So I said, you know what, if this is meant to be, let us renew his passport, everything move in synchronicity, which it did. In
Once again,
2
lined
weeks,
up.
2 weeks, boom, we landed here. And we really took a mother-son healing journey and really delve into different modalities. And it was so important for me to bring him to a place that he could connect with the ocean. It's like going to the mikveh or a baptism, you know, really and truly. And grounding, connecting to the sand and walking on the ground barefoot and seeing the birds and the butterflies. That is so healing, and we take it for granted and we miss it because we're so tunnel vision, especially, you know, in the big US world, you know, just blowing and going and not pausing and really listening. What is our inner soul, our higher level soul, our compass telling us and sharing with us? And so, you know, I always say that in some of the hardest, toughest moments and a friend shared this with me years ago, one of my mentors, and she said, you know, just remember in those hardest moments that maybe you don't feel like God can give you what you can handle, but I assure you, God will give you what you can grow into. And so even in my coaching, you know, methodology and engagements, I always say, get ready, because we're going to stretch into your greatness. But it can be painful too, right? And so I think being here has been so amazing, and he'll share his story, obviously, but he is still here. Interestingly enough. And, you know, we just, by the grace of God, taking it one day at a time. So,
well, amen to that, sister.
Amen to that.
I'm so grateful for your willingness to come and share your experience with us today, and looking forward to talking to Asher as well and about his experience. And, thank you for just being such an amazing human being, Summer.
Thank you. Thank you. We have to be the bomb. Have I mentioned bomb to you?
No. What's the bomb?
The bomb. It's been a great resource for me, dealing with a loved one with addiction. So I feel so compelled to share. The bomb is based similarly from AA. However, it's a little bit deeper component, but it stands for, so it's BALM, and it stands for Be a Loving Mirror. And it has really been some profound tools and resources for me to come back to during this part of Asher's journey.
And we all have struggles. We all have things that
100%.
God needs to heal us from, to help us learn from. We call it pruning.
Yes.
You know, the growing. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm just so grateful that you were willing to share. And be blessed, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us.